Welcome to the WOD Pod. Join me as I sit down with CrossFitters, fitness experts, top coaches, professional athletes, and other well-known gym goers to listen to their journey through fitness. This episode is with Mark Nel, a South African weightlifter and functional fitness coach. He spent most of his career in the fitness space, but not all of it. Mark gives us an insight into his career before discovering CrossFit, and it's one you don't want to miss. We discuss Mark's coaching journey and how his ethos has helped him build a 90-plus member gym from scratch in less than 2 years. Oh, and Mark, you've publicly said world's weightlifting top 3 at age 50. It's now a written contract. Okay, yeah. So I said to Mark, we'll do the podcast when you're at max members in your gym, when you're capped. And this has come around way quicker than I thought. Yeah. Like quicker than you thought.
Yeah, I remember standing in the parking lot in Jan and I was stressing and you were like, don't worry, it'll get there. And I was like, it's got such a long way to go.
Yep.
And to be where we are now, are you going to edit my my vocabulary out? Because
oh no, you can swear.
Not very good.
It's fine. No, you can swear. You're South African.
I know.
Okay, to quickly intro Mark, he's South African. He swears a lot. He's my coach from the gym. You'll soon pick that up in the episode, I'm sure.
So standing there, and I remember it quite clearly where we were parked standing, and you were like, "Fucking don't stress about it. It's okay." And I was like, yeah, there's a lot to be done and a lot that we need to change. And then to be where we are about a month ago, 2 months ago, having the discussions with the people that we're having the discussions with to where we want to be for next year. There's that fine line between arrogance and confidence. And so I don't want to be arrogant about it. But it has gone really quickly, really well. Where Kelly and I landed 2.5 years ago is definitely not what we envisioned or where we thought we were going to be or thought we'd ever be back to where we are now. So to be here has been very quick, so it's good.
Yeah, we're definitely going to come on to the gym, where you've got to now, but I'd like to rewind. Can we go back to your childhood? South Africa? No, we're not going to get super deep, don't worry. It's not a therapy session.
Yeah, that's a fucking lot of people will be very...
Yeah. No, but just a bit like to give people an insight into the fact that you're from South Africa, how long you've lived there, family, school, like what school life was like.
So we don't come from a wealthy background. I've got 3 brothers, one older, one younger. And so we travel quite a bit. My dad was always... working in different places. We got into one of the best schools at the time in South Africa was Maritzburg College. And then my father got a promotion and things happened and we had to go. And he decided to leave us in boarding school. My relationship with my dad wasn't very good. He didn't support me enough. So I thought he didn't support me enough. Until I was about 18. I was weightlifting. I was competing at 14. I don't think they were at any of my events that I was at. And so I didn't have a good relationship with my dad. Finished school, went back, was about maybe a month. And like I can almost remember the day was in May. And I remember saying to my mother, I'm like, why the fuck are you still married to this guy? Like he's an arsehole. And my mom turned around and said, you wind your neck in. They said, your dad works 3 jobs for you to go to the school that you go to. And I had to take a step back. And then I realized it wasn't that he wasn't there because he wasn't there. He would literally get up at 6 o'clock, go to work, finish his first job, go to his second job, finish that job, and go to another fucking job. And so he wasn't there because he wasn't there. He wasn't there because he wanted the best for us. So there was never anything, like we didn't have a lot of money, but if I ever asked for something, I got it. And so that was a hard lesson for me to have to learn. And I had to sit down and went to a pub one day. And that's, I said, in May, we went to a pub. It was just for his birthday. And I sat down and said, like, I'm sorry. Like, I thought you were an arsehole my whole life. And I've just realized that, like, you gave up everything for us to do what we need to do. And he was very militant, very, like, my dad doesn't have many emotions.
I think that's part of it is because there's no emotion, he's showing his support with actions 100%. Rather than telling you things. He would just go to work and provide
100%. Yeah. Like, and that's something that I think is very important that I look back at like why things might be different now and roles change. And I get it. I know people get fucking sensitive about all that, but like my mom's job was to support my dad, and my mom was like like I was saying, like she had the perfect opportunity when I was like, what, he's such an arsehole. She had the perfect opportunity to run him down and she stood by and was like, hold on, no, you wind your neck in. And we had to, as kids, understand our place in the pecking order. And he just, being an Afrikaans dad, his understanding, his upbringing was like, I provide. Like if I have to work 24 hours a day, I provide so my wife can stay at home, so my kids can have what they were. And that was just his understanding of life. And again, it was difficult for me to understand as a kid, but I think looking back now, they were the best lessons I could have ever learned, because if I look at how I run the gym now and how I live my life, like there's only one expectation, and that expectation has to be met. And I look at my partner, Kelly, and that's how I know she's right for me, because Kelly is like almost identical to my mother. Like if I have a bad day, if I have a weak day, like she is there to support, carry me, keep me going forward, keep me pushing forward. And so the dynamic works. Finished school. My mom's got a letter when I was 14. I was weightlifting at the time, and I wrote a letter. I was in boarding school. I was like, I fucking hate it. I don't want to be here. I wasn't the cleverest kid. And I wrote a letter, and I was like, I want to leave. I want to travel the world, and I want to be a personal trainer. And my mom still got that letter. And so I finished school, and my dad was like, not a chance. You need pension. You need medical aid. Like I was born 1980. And so apartheid had just kind of sorted its stuff out. So as a country, we weren't allowed to go anywhere as of yet. We weren't like international. We're all building onto all that stuff. And my dad was like, you need a medical aid, you need pension, you need this. Personal training at the time was a load of crap. Like it was just bodybuilders that you asked for help. And so I ended up going.
To have that goal at 14, a lot of 14-year-olds have no idea. They have no passion. They have no desire to do anything. They just want to just carry on with life. To 100%. Know that at 14 is probably quite unique.
And for me, I think I've always had the best mentors. Like I went to, again, we didn't have much money. So it was Health and Racket at the time in South Africa. I went in Health and Racket. We got 50 Rand, whatever that is in pounds. I think it's like a 10 or whatever. That was my pocket money. My dad was dead against the gyms. And I was like, I want to go to the gym. I'm not the biggest chap at school. I was like 3 foot something. It was a very hard school, very militant school. And so you had to excel in either academics or sports to be recognized. And I was like, well, I ain't fucking making academics, that's for sure. So I was going to go the sport road, and I was like, all right, I've got to train. I've got to do something. So I went to Health and Racket. Their gym fees were 150 Rand. I was like, well, fuck, I'm $100 short. So my mate Reese Foster and I were walking back, and down this like alley, there was Warren's gym. And I was like, oh, let's go in there. And we walked in, and it was proper, like spit and sawdust.
Old school.
Yeah, welded together. It was just massive individuals everywhere. And we're like, we're in the wrong place. Like, we're getting out of here. And we turned around, and Martin was the SA powerlifting coach at the time, and he stopped us. And like, he was 6 foot. And I get it, when you're 14, like, my vision of Martin was like this mammoth of a man.
9 foot.
Yeah. He was a giant, and I was only 14. So maybe he was only like 6 foot, I don't know, whatever. But he was huge. And he said to us, and he was like, all right, what do you guys want? And we were like, we don't have the money. And he's like, what have you got? And so we gave him our 50 Rand, and he said, all right, I'll take your money on one condition. You are here every day. There's no negotiations. I'll coach you. And the supplement bars over there, you get 1 protein shake a day. And the routine he gave us is we had to wake up every morning at 4 o'clock. We had 3 raw eggs. We ran the 3K to the gym. We did our training session, and we had to run all the way back. Then obviously we had school and all of that, and then we had to go back in the afternoon for another session.
Wow.
And that was our routine. And he was such an inspirational individual that at 14, like you're in boarding school, so you don't have mom and dad. You don't have you're looking for a father figure. And he just filled that role phenomenally. Like he was just like, you're driving, you're doing this, you're doing that. And he literally just set us all up. So much so that we started doing really well, that the school even gave us this little room behind the squash courts that we could make into our own gym. And we had all the flex wheelers, and we had all the posters on the side of the wall. And so Reese and I trained like every single day.
And you were what, 14?
I was 14. Finished school, wanted to go into personal training. My dad was like, nope, not going to happen. You need a job, real job. So second nature was nutrition. And so I was like, all right, I'll go into hotel management. I'll learn the nutrition side of it or the cooking side of it, and I'll go that road. Finished that, ended up with a job at Tiffindale Ski Resort, which is like in the Sutu Mountains. It's only ski resort. It's like 800 meters worth of man-made snow in Africa. I
didn't expect that.
No.
I was thinking a ski resort in South Africa.
Yeah, it was just an ice block. Like that's all it was. Did a season there as a chef. Hated it. Like all I was allowed to do was fry eggs, and that I get it. Like Kelly's a chef, and so like I understand how the chefing world works. But like I just fried eggs for like 6 months, and I was like, I hate that.
Yeah.
The season ended, and I got a phone call to come back as an instructor, because you obviously learn to ski and snowboard and all that while you're there. So I was like, all right, come back as an instructor. Came back the next season instructor. By pure dumb luck, a guy named Marco was hosting the first ever South African world champ qualifiers or whatever. So I entered that, ended up making the team for giant slalom for snowboarding, and we ended up coming to Chamonix in France.
No way.
We went to Worlds in Madonna for fists, came stone fucking last. But was an experience.
What age were you doing this?
I was 21 at the time. Okay. 21. Got back, and then I really didn't want a job. Like I was like, nope, I'm going to be a snowboard bum, or I'm going to be a personal trainer. Like those are my options. And again, my mom was super supportive, and she was like, I'll speak to your dad. Do what you want to do. So I went into personal training. Personal training studying then was very different to what it is now. Like you can go get your level 1, 2, and 3 in like a weekend, and you can do it online. There you had to go do a 2-year course. So I went and did my personal training, worked at Virgin Active for a bit, and was obviously as a newbie wasn't making money. So I ended up having to go work with my brother at Panasonic and sell switchboards. And like I was hating life.
Yep.
Like I've never been so miserable.
Were you doing any weightlifting alongside any of this?
Yeah. So I was always training.
So
I've
you're
never
always
stopped.
okay.
Yeah, never stopped. So
and you mean weightlifting as in weight training, or were you doing your weightlifting? So
weight training. I stopped competitive weightlifting at 18.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're doing that from sort of 14 through to 18.
Yeah. So still trained, but was like more on like the bodybuilding scene. It was more for like every 18-year-old. I just want to look good and keep fit and keep healthy.
Yep.
Completely hated my life. And again, my mother came in and said, you are not happy. Do what makes you happy. Like just follow whatever makes you happy. So a year went by, ended up working, selling whiskey and cigars. Like
it's not what I expected again.
Went to sell a switchboard at a place, and Jerome McManus was the boss. And he was like, why don't you leave then come work for me? And I was like, fuck it. Yeah. Like it's easier work than what I was doing. And all I had to do was go to like restaurants and hotels and all that and stock up their cigars and like sell cognacs and all that stuff. So I did that for about a year.
Is that why you hate them both now?
Well, I tell you what, they were good salesmen because they sold me on it. And I was like, I don't smoke. And they're like, you don't have to smoke. How they make cigars is better and it's like healthier for you and you don't inhale the smoke. And so I was like, cool, I'll fucking sell whiskey and cigars. And so I did that for about a year and a half. And in that time frame, my younger brother, who we were like very, very close, moved over to the UK. And he was like, no, come over, there's opportunities here. So I was like, okay. So went over, ended up in London. We were right off. And that's why when you said, let's talk about your past, I was like, we were right off. So like him and I we were here to party. We weren't here for anything else. And then I met my second mentor, which was Mike Burton. He was British weightlifting. And I started working with him, very close to him and the guys at Reebok. And again, he was like, I've never had an amateur like mentor or coach. They were all high level. Another guy that I worked with was Grant Breeze, and he worked with all the F1 guys and all that. And so the discipline and the understanding of being a coach was very different to like, you just got to work kind of thing. It was like, it's not like you research it, you dive into the depths of it and you get it right. And so we were like, just my younger brother and I were just writing our lives off, having a good time.
What year was this?
This was, Dominic was 20, well, I was 26. So it would have been 2006. Yeah.
Okay.
2006. Like those stories are horrid, like police stations, and like we just wrote ourselves off.
Yeah.
And we walked into a pub one night, and Dave Crotty, the owner of the personal training side of Reebok, was like, what the fuck do you guys do? Like all I ever hear every Monday is that these two South Africans have gone and done a whole lot of shit.
Yep.
And so we're like, well, actually we're both personal training qualified, but like we just don't have like anything in the UK, like nothing means anything. And he said, well, lucky for you, Reebok normally employs on like bachelors, masters of sport, all that kind of jazz. He's like, I employ on personality. And like, if you give up everything, like we had to give up all our sideline jobs. It's like, if you commit 100% to this and you get 10 clients, I'll employ you. So like, we were like, okay, cool. We literally walked in that Monday. We took the whole file of members that worked at Reebok, and we literally just phoned and said free PT, free PT, free PT. For about 2 weeks, we must have worked 12 hours a day just doing free PT sessions. And by the end of those 2 weeks, we had our 10 members, and it's like, okay, cool, you're employed. And so I worked at Reebok for about 3 years then, doing that.
In London?
In London, yeah, in London. It's now called 3 Space or something like that.
Third Space.
Third Space. That's it.
Yeah. It's big now.
Yeah, with a rock climbing wall and the basketball court in it, and yeah. And so our visas ran out, and Dominic's visa was a year before mine because he had obviously arrived before. And I was personal training a guy, Daryl Preston, and he was like owned all the spas and gyms on the cruise ships. And he was like, why don't you fucking guys come work for me? And I was like, I don't know if I want to give up the last year I have working at Reebok and get as much experience as I can, or go work on a cruise ship. So Dominic was like, I'll go first. And so he left, joined the ship. He must have been there for about 3 months, and he phoned and he was like, get here. And I was like, cool, I'm done. I'm in, joined the cruise ships. And then that was like, again, that's a whole different life and a whole different story. But it, like, if you're young and dumb, go and fucking do it.
Okay, so it was fun.
Oh yeah. Like, but again, working, you had to work from 6 o'clock in the morning. You finished at like 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, but then you had to go socialize, and then you partied all the way to like 3 o'clock, had 3 hours sleep, and you did that for 3 months solid. Like it was just.
You had to be young to do that then.
Oh yeah. It was just like chaos. Yeah. It was just chaos. Did that for a year. We were very good at it, and we made a lot of money. But the ships didn't like the fact that when we left, like they were like, the money you've made is pointless because the shit we have to fix because of the mayhem you guys have caused is just not worth it. So they separated us and wouldn't put us on the same ships again, but they put us into management. And so we've always been competitive with each other, healthy, competitive, Dominic and I. And so our ships did really well because we were always competing with each other and messaging each other and all that kind of jazz. And so I think I was a manager for about a year, and then they promoted us to commercial revenue, and then we were based in London and Barbados.
So this podcast episode is sponsored by Prep Kitchen. Prep Kitchen are providing high protein, super tasty meals. My favourite one at the moment is the firecracker chicken, 500 calories, 40 grams of protein. Make sure you check them out. I'll put a link for them in the description below. On with the episode. So you went back to South Africa?
Yeah, went back to SA. Visas were run out. We didn't have visas anymore. We didn't want to do the cruise ships anymore. And so where did Dominic go? Oh, Dominic ended up going into computers and doing all that kind of jazz. Like he left the whole fitness.
Back in South Africa?
Back in South Africa. And so I was like, well, I'm going to go back as well. Went back to my folks, had like my business proposal, said, this is what I'm going to do. And they're like, okay, you can take the garage. And so the initial plan after working at Reebok, where you work with athletes and then you go on the cruise ship and you see millions of people, and they bring you, at the time, Men's Health was like a big thing. And they bring this Men's Health magazine, like, I want to look like this. And you're like, you're never.
Yeah.
Like the time and effort that goes into being a good athlete versus 3-day-a-week training, like that's not going to happen. And so we came up with what was called Raw Fitness at the time. Was like your preseason, in-season, postseason. I'll explain in a bit, but like that was the training cycle to kind of give general public the same feeling as if they were like an elite athlete kind of thing.
Yeah. At the start, was it just you, or was there anyone
just
else?
me. Okay. No, just me. I literally took 2x4s. My dad was very good with his hands. That was one thing that he always said us. He says, you've got to learn to use your hands, because if you ever lost your job, you can build your house, you can do whatever you need to. So out of these 2x4s, we drilled these holes. We got this solid iron bar, and that became our rig. So we set it up against the wall. We had a wooden platform. We rubberized the side of it. And that was our platform with a bench. And that's where we started. And I started with my mother, my eldest brother, and my neighbors were the first 4 members I had. And the policy was, because I wasn't sure if I was going to go back to the ships or not, the policy was like, you with me for 3 months. If you can't learn to squat, bench, deadlift, clean and jerk and snatch in 3 months, like, there's no point. Like,
yeah, or I've done my job wrong.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, there's no point, because I'm doing something wrong. And you had to commit to 3 days a week. There was non-negotiable, like it was 3 days a week, and you were committing to a 12-week cycle. And so I started that process. The 3 months passed. Nobody wanted to leave. And I was like, well, it's done now. I need to get the next group in. And they were like, no. So I was like, okay, well, I'll just put more hours in. And so then I brought the next 4 people on. And then before I knew it, we had about 12. I was looking at the photos the other day with Kelly. We had our first Christmas party, and we had, I think there were like 15 people that were there. Out of those 15 people, we took Debbie, Sonia, and Heidi, who were all stand-ho bombs when they started, no experience in fitness, and they all went to World's Powerlifting, and all 3 broke records in their weight class and age group. And these were
just like your neighbors.
Yeah, pure dumb luck. So there was a guy, Tristan. He was a strongman, SA strongman, and he heard about us via a youngster called Terrence who knew him. And he came in, and Heidi was deadlifting, and she was at that time 61 kilo, 45-year-old lady. And she was deadlifting, and he walked in and he's like, that's a world record. And she had 175 kilos on her deadlift. And we were like, no, it can't be. And he's like, oh, that's a world record.
Wow.
And so he said, enter this comp. And so we went in and entered, Sonia, Heidi, and Debbie. And they smashed it. They like all broke the records, took it, ended up getting an invite to Argentina, which was where the worlds were. This was GPC, not IPF. And so flew over, did worlds, broke world records, got all their medals, got everything, and then we came back. And then by that stage, the garage was like, that's not going to happen. Like, we started getting too busy, and so we grew into our first venue, and I started coaching a girl, Jenna, and CrossFit at that time. So now we're talking 2015. Around about 2015, CrossFit started making its face in South Africa. So Jenna came knowing that I was weightlifting and powerlifting. And she's like, listen, I'm doing this CrossFit. I need a weightlifting coach. Would you coach me? So I was like, yeah, cool. So started weightlifting, and then she kind of like, why don't you come through and try out this CrossFit and see how it goes and blah, blah. And so we went to what was called BST, Hannes, went through to our first CrossFit thing. And I was like, all right, like, we do functional fitness, we do weightlifting, powerlifting, and all that kind of jazz. I see how we can relate and work together. And so we started working together. We took Jenna to regionals, which is now the semifinals or whatever it was. I think it's semifinals.
Well, now there's no quarters, but regionals would
be
the
live version of whatever it was at the time. Yeah. So we took Jenna to regionals. And then after that, we decided, well, we might as well affiliate ourselves. And so we went that road. The relationship I was in at the time was under a lot of stress because of the amount of work that I was doing, the amount of stuff that I was putting into the gym and all that. And so we went separate ways. And Dominic messaged me one day and said, there's a weightlifting comp. I've got a couple of mates that are there. Can you go help coach and like put your name out there and all that? I was like, yeah, sure, all right. Got there, was doing some coaching. Dominic's wife, Lindsay, came and said, look, I've got this friend. Her coach is in here. Do you mind giving her some tips? And then walked in, and it was Kelly. And so coached her through her first weightlifting comp.
So did Kelly live in the same town that you were living in?
No, so Joburg's quite big. So she was on the south, and we were on the West Rand. was about 30 minutes drive from each other. Well, longer than that. We finished it. We hit it off from the start. I said, let's meet for coffee. Let's chat. Let's talk about training. Let's talk about it. And we met for coffee. And then I actually think from like the very next day, Kelly and I have spent, I think the longest time away from each other has been like 4 or 5 days. Like we just spent every minute of every day together.
What was Joburg like at that time?
Our neighborhood was not, like, I don't ever want to put anyone off Africa. Like South Africa's phenomenal. If you go to the right places, you know where to go. Like it is one of the most beautiful countries ever. But where we were, if you go back in time and you watch the news where they were like burning people and putting tires, and it was literally like 15, 20 minutes away from our gym. So Zandspruit's the township that is called is Zandspruit. We literally lived like 15, 20 minutes from there. There were many a day that the police would arrive at the gym and be like, all right, you got half an hour, we'll escort you out. You got to lock everything down because they're marching. And then the masses used to come down the main roads. And then if you were in your shop, they'd like throw stones at it and they'd like smash your windows. And so the police would escort us out. And that was like
a common thing.
Yeah, it sounds bad, but we didn't really pay attention to it. We're like, well, that's life.
Yeah.
Like, that happens. We had 2 pit bulls, and that's common in South Africa. Like one dog stays indoors because it knows the house, and one dog stays outdoors because anybody coming to rob your house, they poison them. So you need 2 dogs so that if one gets poisoned, the other one is still inside your house. We had guns in the house. We had guns in the car. We still chuckle now, being in Harrogate, and we look at our friends' social media pages and, what you do on the weekend? Or they're going to the shooting range and they're going to learn how to fire guns. And we're like, all right, like that was normal. We didn't, not that it didn't faze us, but like it was just normal. Everyone did it. And we had Joshua. And the minute we had Joshua, we were both like, no. Like you're stopping at traffic lights and you're like cautious, making sure that like, have I got my gun? Is anybody going to mug me? Like it just became too much for us.
Too high risk.
Yeah. And that was just our neighborhood. Like, again, I don't want to put people off Africa. It's not everywhere. It's not that, but that was just our neighborhood. And like we talk about social media, that you say something and all of a sudden your phone's like, Nike shoes, and like everything starts coming through. Kelly got a phone call. We were sitting having lunch with a couple of our mates, and she got a phone call, and it was, I'm trying to think what the attorneys were, but they were based in the UK, and they were like, no, you can get an ancestral. And we're like, we're second generation. Kelly didn't get her passport when she was born, and he's like, no, you can get it. So Kelly sat down and said, I want to leave and we need to make a decision. And I was like, well, we've got to sell our gym. We've got to sell our house. And so Kelly put this whole, like when I say it, like Kelly's a planner, she had researched, she went and researched Tesco's, Marks and Spencer's, all of them. She'd said, all right, if we have X amount of money, we can buy chicken, rice, we can eat these meals. Like she had this massive plan of how much money we needed. So we did our math and we had to sell everything. Like, I mean, everything. Tom, we were Facebook market our bed. We had lampshades. We flogged everything to get the money. One of our mates that we used to coach over there was in Harrogate. And he said, let me get you in touch with my CrossFit coach. And I was like, okay, cool. Sat down. Now it's COVID time. So we're talking, what's that, 2020?
So one of your friends from South Africa?
Yeah. So I used to
Who lived in the UK?
Who lived in Harrogate.
Okay.
Yeah. So he said, here's the guy's number. Let me set up the meeting. But we had a chat and the discussion was, come over. I'm looking to purchase another gym, going to expand, and I need a manager. And I was like, okay, well, that's the best offer because I'm not going to start at the bottom and work my way through with all the 20-year-olds packing weights away and doing all that kind of jazz. Came over.
This was 2020, just before COVID.
Before the end of COVID, so 21, 22.
Okay.
Yeah, just before the end. Like we were on the back end. Like we came out of our quarantine in Edinburgh 3 months before COVID was like.
So you went to Edinburgh first?
Yeah. So we were going to go to London. Again, Kelly did all the research, and like the feedback on the hotels, and like it was rammed. And I get it. That's because London is a big city and all that. Edinburgh had the best reviews. Kelly had never been. I'd been before because my best friend used to live. He immigrated years and years ago, so I'd been over before, and I was like, lovely. You've never traveled. We can go there. So we went there, and we planned to be a week after our quarantine. We're going to be there for a week, and then we're going to come down to Harrogate. Got here, worked. I think I must have worked for about 5 months. And things happened, and it was like, we don't need you anymore. And I was like, well, I've just sold my entire life, like absolutely everything. Like, what do I do now?
So this podcast episode is sponsored by Prep Kitchen. Prep Kitchen are providing high protein, super tasty meals. My favourite one at the moment is the firecracker chicken, 500 calories, 40 grams of protein. Make sure you check them out. I'll put a link for them in the description below. On with the episode. 4 years prior to this, you came third in the Open in South Africa. 2017.
Masters.
In Masters.
Yeah, Masters, yeah.
So you're pretty good CrossFitter at the time. It's not like...
Yeah.
That must have...
The competition there is very big. Like, we're talking Jason Smith, Richard Smith, Dave Levy. These guys are all regular games appearances, all in our same neighborhood. And so I wouldn't put myself as a great CrossFitter. Those guys are like phenomenal guys. But I can hold my own in my age bracket if needs be. I'm more a weightlifter than anything else. So I did Worlds and finished 4th in Worlds, Masters, 40 to 45 in the 81 weight class.
Yes, you said you did your weightlifting to go back to that from 14 to 18 professionally.
Yeah.
Training like a full-time professional
full-time, yeah.
From there, did you still have a coach after the age of 18 in weightlifting?
No,
or you just knew what you were doing?
Yeah, I was just a write-off. At 33, when we opened Raw, was called Raw Fitness then. When we opened that, I went to a guy, Coach Steve, who was I keep wanting to say Colombian, but it's not. Kelly always gets upset with me. He wasn't Colombian. Whatever it is. He was just the
weightlifting coach
for that team. And then he had now come to South Africa. So I had him, Gordon Shaw, who lifts for Britain now in the heavyweights. He was 16, 17. We used to train together with Coach Steve and Coach Rodney. And so I had him from 32, and he prepped me for Masters. So he was my coach for Masters.
So you picked up again at 32?
Yeah, at about 32 I picked up.
And then what was your pinnacle of, what was your best year?
That was it, 40. Like, the whole procedure was to go to Worlds, finish top 3 was my goal, in the 40 age bracket, 40, 45, at 81 kilos. COVID obviously happened, and they were like, no traveling. So it all had to be done online. Every athlete, I completely understand that. Every athlete has an excuse and a justification as to why. And so shit didn't go my way. The rules were different, and so you're working on Wi-Fi, and like they're trying to get the timings right, because all of that is very important in the back room of weightlifting. The coaches have to know how to manipulate it and how to play the game to get you the best advantage. And they changed the timing as to how you submit your weight. And so I wanted to finish at 145 clean and jerk and 115 snatch. I got the snatch. We went on to the clean and jerk. We loaded up to 132.5, and we were going to lift that one and then move to 140 and then go 145. Did the 132, logged in the 140. You play the game then. The coach is like, try get you more time. And so they play the next weight and whatever. And then the next thing that my name came up, and they were like, you have 1 minute. And we were like, but we've changed the weight. And they're like, nope, you have to submit your weight at this time. And we're like, no, hold on. And so I had to go out and just fucking lift the 140.
And that was your max.
And that was my last lift. And so I ended up 4th where I was hoping to, had I got the 145, I should have at least been second if no one stuffed it up, possibly a first. But we obviously messed it up and can bitch and moan about it as much as I like.
Were you doing this in the UK?
No, this was still in...
Just before you left?
Just before we left, Like literally 6 months, I think, before we left. Like we were packed, ready to go, and then I was doing Worlds and then coming over.
Okay, so you landed your job, just done Worlds, just finished pretty high in the Open. Good accolades.
Doing pretty well. And I wanted to stop. And that was the reality. Like, I had done this for a long time. And like, if I look at my mentors and other competitive athletes, you have a 10-year period. And once those 10 years is done, you kind of stop. I'm still going. I'm like, I always say that to Kelly, I'm like, I don't know how much more my body can take. Like every time I'm meant to reach my max or my peak, something happens and the man upstairs says, not today, son. And so, not that I'm trying to find a way out. Like, I just want to hand the baton over at some stage and be like, listen, I've done my job. Like, it's your turn now. Kelly will hate me for this, but like, I keep trying to pass the baton to her because Kelly went to regional. She was part of a team that was meant to go to the games. And back then you weren't allowed substitutes. And so her teammate got injured and so they couldn't go. Yeah. But she is a phenomenal athlete. I get she's getting old now. She's 32, so she's not as competitive. And we've got a son, and so she's got to be a mom and a housewife and all that kind of jazz. And still moving over here with all the shit that happened to us, she had to go 9 to 5 work. So she's phenomenal. So I keep trying to hand it over to her, and she's like, "Fuck off! Like, stop giving it to me." Like, and so Josh, he's a bit far down the line, but. And so things just didn't align as they needed to. And so the idea was to come over, fill the managerial role, and just sit back and be like, just go to my job, do what I need to do, coach the next possible athlete that wanted to be at that level, and build, with the discussions that we had, build a weightlifting side to that CrossFit gym. Obviously didn't work. And I was coaching Sarah at the time. And Sarah said, let me introduce you to Liz and Dean. We're like, okay. So we went to Liz and Dean's house and they had this, like, again, like my parents' house, like this garage.
It's full circle.
Yeah, 100%. So I said to Kelly, I said, fuck.
Here we go again.
All right, got to start this whole process all over again. So I said, all right, I'll do PT out of it. And so we started PT in Otley Road. I think within like 3 or 4 weeks, like I'm one of those, I don't believe in riding somebody else's horse to the show. And so when I left the gym that I was at, I just left. I put the shit down and said, I'm out. Like, here's your month's notice, not that. Didn't phone anybody, didn't speak to anybody. The only person I spoke to was Sarah because I was personal training her. I spoke to her, but didn't speak to anybody else. I just packed my shit and left. Like, I'm not going to ask you to come to my gym. I'm not going to tell you to leave that gym. Like, I'm a strong believer in somebody else has a mouth to feed. And as much as I feel I'm confident I can do it on my own, I'm not going to take away from your family or try shut your business down or do whatever. The circle's round. Your time will come when your time comes. So packed my stuff, walked out again, very blessed to have the support structure in Kelly that she came back and said, you will be fine. She said, don't you stress, you'll be fine. You will find something. And so after we sat down with Liz and Dean, they were like, well, you can use the garage. I was like, cool. So we started with the garage. 3 weeks later, we just started getting phone calls. People were like, we've heard you've left. We've heard you left. We want to come train by you. And I was like, well, I don't really have much space. Like, I can't work 16-hour days. So we went back to Liz and Dean and we were like, could we possibly turn this into like small group classes and work these hours? Like, we're taking up their home. Cars are coming in, their parking. And they were phenomenal. They're like, yeah, sure, of course, we're all in. In fact, we'll invest. Like, let's be partners. And so we're like, well, okay, cool. Like, let's do that. Fast forward the end of the year, and we're looking for a venue. And we're like, we've maxed out at our 33 members. Like, we don't have any more space. We've got a waiting list of like 5 people. And so we're like, all right, we need the next venue. That was a shit show in its own. Like, Kelly has this talent that she'll walk in a place and she'll walk in and she'll be like, yep. Or
straight away, she'll just know.
Yeah. And we went from place to place and she was like, nope. To a stage where I was like, Kelly, like, we need to fucking make a decision. And something happened. Someone phoned us, or phoned Liz, I think, and said, listen, this place is coming up. Do you want to have a look at it? And we walked into what is now 1111. And as Kelly walked in, we're both like, yeah, we can make this work. That was May, whenever it was, what's now going 2 years, so May,
yeah.
when it was. Revamped it, started operating. We were only going to go to 80 members was the plan. And Kelly and I have no knowledge in like how the UK system works or what normal is. So we're just building it on what we knew in SA. And I get it. Like, I don't want it to be like oh, that's phenomenal. It's not. And the reason why it's not is we've been building gyms for a long, we didn't rock up and decide to open our first gym.
Yep.
Like, we've been building gyms for us. So we knew already, we had made the mistakes. I'd nearly sunk 2 businesses prior. So like, I want to be like, yeah, that's phenomenal. And it's not, we made our mistakes. We knew what we needed to do. So
in South Africa, the gym you had, when it kind of was at its biggest, how many members were there?
150.
Okay.
150. Yeah. We had, well, I say 150. We had, like, there was Raw Fitness and then what was at the time called CrossFit Nina, which was no egos, no attitude. So like close on, I'd say about the 180 member mark, but they weren't like, Nina wasn't really ours. It belonged to somebody else. And so Raw Fitness was ours.
But you were running both?
Yeah, we owned.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we owned the venue and we had
Yep.
shares and so like it was a.
But still, 180
ours,
people.
Yeah, roughly about 180 people, but we were managing about 120 odd of them. So we didn't. I don't want to say that because we're almost going that same road. But we didn't want to go back to that 180, 120 member marker, just because you lose that personal touch of it. And my mentors are always like, it's personal training. Like, the name fucking gives it away. Personal. It should be unique to you. It shouldn't be something that's downloaded off the internet. It shouldn't be something that is cookie cutter from every single thing. And I want that to transition into group functional. And that's where I think a lot of it is lost. Like, a lot of places just get it off somebody else's program sheet or download it from Mayhem or whatever it is. And so it's not structured for your individual. And so at 120 members, that becomes exceptionally difficult. So I don't want to use the member marker as this is right or wrong kind of thing. And so how we tackled that this time is we've now said only 10 people in a class. So we'll go 120 members, but only 10 people in a class. And so we built to the 80 members. And I think that's when we were chatting. And I was like, I've got to get to there. But then not knowing the UK rules, now all of a sudden it's like, oh, at 80 members, you got to pay VAT. And now you're like, whoa, hold on. Like, how much is VAT? Oh, it's about 1,700. I'm like, where the fuck am I going to suck 1,700 pounds from? So this year, that's why I say we've got to now take another leap. This year, we're opening up more classes and trying to get more members because we've got to get to that 120 marker now to make sure that we're paying our VAT and paying our tax and all that kind of jazz. So 120
is the sweet spot, the goal.
Yeah, I'd say for a gym of our size, it would be. But like I said, not something that I want to do kind of thing. I think too many people make that mistake is that it's an easy job. Like nail technicians, you can learn it and be good. And then all of a sudden everyone's a fucking nail technician, owning their own nail technician, doing it from home. But like, if you want to be anything of substance, you have to be a team. Like, there's no dispute about it. And I think that is our biggest asset right now, is our team is very good. And so the choice to go to 120 members now is a little bit more confident than when we're speaking in Jan, because we've got a good team now. We've got a bunch of people that we trust, that work well, that have learned and want to keep learning and are along the same path as Kelly and I. And like, this is the vision we want. Like, I don't just want somebody who turns up and goes like, oh, here's the fucking workout of the day. Yeah, my son is 6 and I can promise you he can design the worst fucking workout in the world. And that's because he doesn't understand work to rest ratio. He doesn't understand weight. He just goes, oh yeah, 500 burpees. Yeah.
Off you go.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's going to suck. Doesn't matter what. Doesn't mean he's thought it through. And so we need a team that has the same vision of us and wants to give as much as we do. And that was a roller coaster journey on its own. Like the horror stories of coaches that we've had. There was a guy in SA that nearly sunk our business for us. He literally took everything we taught him, took the program, took absolutely everything, and then went down and opened like 200 meters away from us. And I was like, what the fuck? And Kelly came in and said, Mark, that won't work. And I was like, how do you know? She said, they're not you. It won't work. Like, you can take the program as many times as you want. If you are not driving that ship, it won't work. And within 2 years, like, and that's why I now have the approach I have with competitors, other gyms, like all 40 of his members, because he wasn't very big, he didn't get very big. All 40 of his members came back to us because 20 of those left. And so they already knew about us and knew the program and knew how we were operate. 40 came and I was like, well, that was the easiest marketing I've ever done.
Yeah.
Like,
give him 20. He sent you 40 back.
Yeah, here's
Deal.
20.
Just
give me 40. Like, anybody else want to join the party? Like, fuck it, I'll keep doing that all day. And we've had that quite a few times. And Dave Crotty, who was the Reebok mentor of mine, he always said that to me. He said, Mark, you'll go through 50 coaches to find one good one. And that's because coaching is easy. And people forget that it's a team effort, like, you're a phenomenal coach on your own. But the minute you want to go bigger, you're going to need somebody to help you. And if that person screws you over, you are always just keeping your head above water. And so you've got to work as a team to grow that facility. And so we're in a good place now because we're a good team.
Yeah, I would say you've gone from 30 in the gym to 90 now, nearly.
Yeah,
or over.
92, yeah.
Very quickly. And I would say that's probably because your retention rate has been so good.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of gyms seem to lose members as they gain members quite a lot. It's like a few in, few out.
Yes.
I've noticed that 1111's hardly lost any.
No. So we, in South Africa, well, they're here in the UK now, Octave. We've known Mark from when he first started Octave, which is the gym management side of it.
Yeah.
And he, in SA, had already messaged us and said, you guys are doing something different here. He said, your retention rate is 97%. And we'd been operating for like 5 years, which is great. Like, that,
why do you think that is?
I don't know. I give a shit is the only thing that I can say. Like, I was taught never to walk into a gym and not know one of my clients. Like, if I did not, and when I say not know you, it's not like, hey, it's Jamie. Like, I need to know your girlfriend, your husband, your wife, your children. Like, it is a family. Like, if I don't know your life, it's not personal enough. And so, well, I'll pick up the phone. But where the fuck are you? Like, why aren't you coming here? Like,
I know on day, if I've not been to the gym for a week, I know on day 7, I'm like, oh, Mark's going to ring. I'm like, this is embarrassing.
Yeah.
But it's good.
Yeah, I'll pick up the phone. And it's just like, again, I was just lucky to have the right mentors. And Mike always used to tell me, if you choose to do this job, don't devalue yourself anything short of being a doctor. You are working with people's health and fitness. Like, they are coming to you and saying, I want to be healthy. I want to be fit. If you're going to sit around and be like, oh yeah, let's fucking go get hammered every week and let's go eat shit and let's go, like, are you really promoting health and fitness? Do you really care about them being fit and healthy? And so for me, I can only say that Kelly and I, we just care. Like, we care that you are the best version of who you are going to be. And that's not relative to whether you want to go to the games or be the world's best, or you just want to train 3 days a week. Like, I don't care. You come to the gym, be prepared. I'm going to fucking ride you every single week. If you don't turn up, you're getting a phone call. If you're not trying to push your boundary, you're getting a phone call. If you're not aiming for personal best, then I'm going to ask why.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't like us, that's cool. Like, I completely get that. Like, I'm one of those. Fitness is not fun. Fitness becomes fun. Like, it's hard work. You don't just come and be like, oh, I'm going to go have fun. Like, no, what's the point? Like, you're wasting money. You're wasting time. Like, go do other shit. And there's gyms that cater for that. There are gyms that cater for it. There's a square peg for every square hole. We're just not that gym. We are very results driven. And I think that is what keeps the member, is that they sit there and go like, this person actually gives a shit that I'm the best version of me, not best version of Mark. Like, we've got a lot of members that I look at and I'm like, I just want to grab their neck and be like, you can be so much more, but they don't want to.
Yep.
And that's fine. That's their choice. The longer they are with us, slowly they will be like, oh, hold on, like, I can do this and I can push that boundary and I can go here. And I know it's a joke between everyone in the gym, but like, you have a choice, but you don't have a choice. Like, I'm going to keep pushing. Like, I'm always going to be pushing. I don't believe that any human being should be like, oh yeah, second best is okay and sitting on the couch doing fuck all's fine. Like, no. Like, you can be so much more. And I get the journey is horrible, but I promise you, when you get there, you will turn around and be like, this is where life is. And this is where, like, the good stuff is. The road's hard.
No one, every single person enjoys seeing results and seeing progression. Like, no one can argue that. No one can say, I don't like the way Mark's so, down my throat all the time. But then when you get the results, you realize why.
Yeah. And so Mike used to say that all the time. Mike was like, interview any professional athlete, any of them, ask them about their coach. They'll always say, my coach is an arsehole. Like, your job is not to be nice. Your job is not to be friendly. Your job is not to be the best person in the room. Your job is to get results. And people will hate you your whole journey until they win. And the minute they win, they all of a sudden turn around and they love you.
Yep.
It's a very short time frame, because Monday comes and you're like, well, now you got to fucking be better than that. And so then they hate you again. And so you got to learn as a coach to accept the fact that people aren't going to like you. And so that's what I say, guys. Like, yeah, I know I'm an arsehole. Like, I'm never going to deny that and pretend I'm not. And like, yeah, I am. But I'm a really nice guy if you decide that you want more than just being average.
Yeah.
The minute you decide that, you change your perspective of me. I don't change as a person. I'm an arsehole. Like, I'm not going to change that. You will change your perspective of me because you realize, oh wait, he's an arsehole because he cares, because he wants me to be better than what I am. And so that's what I think that our community has realized, is that they come in there like, okay, like, I've been to other gyms, but like, I'm just a number. I scan my card, I go in, I go do some leg press, I go and do the workout of the day, I go do it, and I leave, and no one gives a shit. Whereas at 11:11, if it's not me, it's Kelly, and someone's going to phone you, and someone's going to ask where you are, and someone's going to expect you to put a result on the board in some way, form, or means.
How does the satisfaction you get from seeing a member achieve a goal, improve, do better compare to your own personal goals? So like, when you were doing 145, when you hit your 145 kilo clean and jerk, how does that compare to someone PBing Hyrox?
I think it's a different mindset. So being a competitive athlete is a very different mindset. So like, it's never good enough. So I finished 4th. My goal was to come to the UK to get a nice, safe job and work on me being a better and living an actual athlete lifestyle and being the best masters I can be. And by 45, I wanted to go back to Worlds, and I wanted to better that result, and I wanted to get a top 3, and I wanted to get a medal. Obviously, life has given me the cards that I want. So me achieving what I wanted to is never good enough. And I think every elite athlete understands that. Like, You put that time and effort in, but your mindset is different. Your focus is different. What you want from life is different. And I think it's what makes the best very different to the rest. Like a lot of people want to be competitive and they want to do well and they want to be on a podium or whatever. But the person who wants to go to the top of the food chain just understands that life is not going to be the same. It's not healthy. It's not the same mindset. It's not the same. Nothing is ever good enough for you. So I feel, for me, watching an athlete get their first handstand, run their first 100 meters, like the amount of people we've had that come in. I worked with a guy, James Beattie. He was a supercross biker, had a serious accident. Like his leg was on by like the last few tendons. And the doctor said to him, "That's you done." And he came to me. He'd been with us like on and off for a while. And he came and he said, "I know you don't believe that." And I was like, I don't believe the human body can ever accept that what it is what it is. There's too many people out there that have shown it wrong. You've just got the right mindset. And he said, "All right, I'm all in. Like, I'll train." And James got back on his bike 2 years later. Not only did he get on his bike, he found a passion for powerlifting. We got him all the way to a 190 kilo back squat. We got him to a 220 kilo deadlift.
Wow.
And this was not even 28 months before, like his leg was almost off. But that, again, working with that athlete, his mindset is different. Like what he's going to do, where he's going to go through. General public envision it, and it's great. And my job is to inspire that vision. But we have people that come and are like, "I just want to run 100 meters." When they run their first 100 meters or jump on their first 20 plate, like the 60-year-olds that can't box jump or don't have plyometric power, to jump on their first 20 kilos, that has more meaning to me than what I've achieved. Because what I've achieved, that's my job. Like, I always look at it that way. When people say, "Oh, you've done this." Yeah, that's my fucking job. Like, I don't have a 9-to-5 job like the people I work with do. I don't have to worry about other I live in a gym. So me doing what I do is me just doing my job. I'm not the world's best. I'm not the face of a fucking Weet-Bix box. And so like, yeah, I'm doing well for me and what I want to achieve. But like, am I doing well? No, like I'm not. And so there's always room for me to do more. So I don't think I'll ever have the same pride and joy as a lot of the people that I work with, which is, I'm fine with that. Like, that's.
So this podcast episode is sponsored by Prep Kitchen. Prep Kitchen are providing high protein, super tasty meals. My favorite one at the moment is the firecracker chicken, 500 calories, 40 grams of protein. Make sure you check them out. I'll put a link for them in the description below on with the episode. To go back to boarding school, it was an all boys school, right?
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of the military style training, I feel like you've incorporated some of that with the way that you take on coaches.
Yes.
So I think you briefly mentioned people have to come into 1111 and put in a good amount of time before they get actually employed.
Yeah.
Can you explain your reasoning behind that and why you do that?
So for me, it's a team thing. Okay. So if one cog is out, that watch is worthless. Like you can tell me it's the most expensive watch in the world. If it doesn't fucking work, like, I don't care how much it's worth. Like, it needs to work. And because it's a team thing, if the wrong person comes in with the wrong mentality, that whole vision, structure, everything falls apart. And like you're saying, that military background, if you look at SAS, military Marines, like, how do you know you've got your best team? Like, only once they've been through the shit. Like, if life's easy, everybody shows their good side. When things are going well, everybody's on board. This is a brilliant idea. Yeah, we're growing. We're going to get another venue. Everybody's in. And then the shit hits the fan, and then you'll see people leave. And so I feel that the journey to where you want to be is the same for a coach as it would be if Nancy decided she was 70 and wanted to get off that chair and do a 20-inch box jump. You know she's not going to go in, and you know she's not smashing on day one. She has a lot of hard things to deal with. She's going to have a lot of up and down. She's going to take a long process. But when she gets there, it's going to be worth the world to her. I feel the same with coaching. Like, you should earn your stripes. So when I started coaching, there was no online PT
in a day.
Yeah. No 3-day weightlifting course and now you're a weightlifter. You had to work underneath a coach. Like if you look at CrossFit, the Bergner method, only they, if you've worked for them for 5 years or worked underneath them, do they then say you're a coach. There's no certification you can get to be a coach. CrossFit came along, slapped coach on the back of a t-shirt, and now everyone's a coach. Like, there's a difference. If you look at your personal trainer at your David Lloyd's and you look at the English rugby coach, they're not the same. Like, one is analyzing data, one is trying and is under pressure, gives up their weekends, gives up their life to make sure that the team is the most significant. The other one comes in and does an hour with you and it's like, cool, done.
Yep.
So for me, that process should be the same. And when I started off, you were first a floor instructor. And as a floor instructor, you weren't allowed to coach anybody. You weren't allowed to take anybody on. You literally just changed weights. The amount of times I took that fucking dumbbell rack and had to go from deload everything from 2 kilos all the way to the fucking 50 kilos because somebody decided to do bench this side and put it by the twos was a misery. But that was your job. And then once you did that, you could go into group fitness. And group fitness was all your step aerobics, Pilates, blah, blah. You're allowed to do that. And then once you did that, you went in, and this was just my experience with my jobs that I worked at. I get that it doesn't work like in every gym, but mine was as a personal trainer. I still wasn't a personal trainer. I was like a chef, like the sous chef. The coach gave the program, and it said, load Tom's bar to 150 kilos. And I loaded your bar to 150 kilos. So I was learning the recipe so that I knew the recipe backwards before I was allowed to take on.
Instruct it.
Yeah, before I could instruct it. And then the head coach at the time then says to you, well done, you're a coach. Go and do what you need to do. And so it was that regiment and that military approach back home that kind of got me to understand that when you go to the top, because you had earned it, you were like, this is worth something to me. It wasn't something that you were going to go like, you know what? Thanks for all that time and effort, Tom. I really appreciate it. I'm going to open my own gym now. I'm going to take all your knowledge and all the time and effort you've put in and everything, and I'm going to go do it myself. And because I've got more money than, and Kelly always says, take the chip off your shoulder. I'm obviously don't come from a lot of money. So I always sit on, like, Kelly's always like, it always goes back to money with you. But like, you can buy better equipment. You can have a bigger facility. But you got fuck all passion. You got no drive. You don't want to help people. You just want money. That stops that process. That person gets in is like, all right, I actually value this. And the business grows. And the business doesn't grow the same way we want to grow 1111. I don't want to grow it because I want more money. Like, if you speak to Liz and Dean and our investors, like, I haven't had an increase in my salary from day one, and I don't want an increase. All I want is to help more people. I believe if I help more people, the money will come. It will naturally happen. It will evolve if I'm with the right people. It'll happen. But my goal should be to help more people. That's why I chose this job. Again, Mark used to always say, if you want a Ferrari, don't be a personal trainer. Like, you don't choose this job because you want a fancy house and a fancy car. You choose this job because you want to help people. And so I think having that mentality and having that structure is what has the retention rate that it has. People feel bad when they don't turn up to our gym. They feel like they need to tell us. And Kelly and I have a laugh because we see people in town and they're not trying to be professional athletes. They're just trying to be normal people, but they'll have like a roll in their hand and they'll see us.
They'll hide it.
They'll try and hide it. Like, I'm like, I don't care what you eat. Like, eat whatever the fuck you want to eat. But the fact that you feel bad about it, that means I've impacted your life. That means you're doing
your job.
Yeah, I've impacted your life and you actually understand health. You understand being fit and healthy. And you might have that moment elapse, but you go like, shit. That's my job. That's all I need to do. And the minute I see that, I'm like, cool. Like,
you're doing it right.
Yeah, go wild. Yeah. I'm on my way to go get myself some McDonald's. So don't tell anybody. But like, I'm glad that's the thought process for you.
For what goes in.
Yeah.
say, it's probably more of a question for me, really. I started CrossFit late, but what do you say to someone who is starting it at a young age? Would you do anything different?
No, again, I was lucky. So I had the right coaches. And so from what I've seen others do, my advice is the journey is the same. Like my dad always said, water takes the same time to boil. Like that's just fact. So you can be an athlete and want to get to the top of the food chain really quickly. That's great. But you're going to get somewhere along that road that's going to hit a plateau or it's going to slow you down. Like the water's going to take the same time to boil.
Yeah.
Rather, again, take the steps that need to be done. And if you really analyze, because people normally, when I look at all the social media and all the Instagram posts and they look at all the fun stuff that's in the middle. When you look at that elite person and you aspire to be that elite person, they're spending hours working on the basics. What makes them elite is not that they can do the real stuff. It's they can do the basics really, really well. And so as a younger athlete, I'd be like, drop the weights. Like as a weightlifter, they always say, master the stick before you master the bar. Like spend time actually mastering the movement, like make it an art form. It might take you 3 years, but I promise you, when you decide to put the gas on, you are going to fly. And the Russian weightlifting program is a prime example. So from 6 to 12, they enter competitions in weightlifting. They're not allowed. Everyone has the same weight. There's no change in weight. They have just a deloaded bar.
So you win by technique.
You win by technique. They judge you like they do gymnasts. You get like a vote out of 10. And that's to teach the athlete that the quality of your movement is important. The minute that kid gets to 16 and you can start loading them, like hormones, testosterone, time, like from 16 to 21, you see mammoth games. And these guys are smashing it. They're not loading them at 6 to 12 and be like, yeah, do this. Like that time frame is the same. So if I started when I was 6, my career ends when I'm 25. I've put my time in, I've put my effort in. That's my time frame. If I start when I'm 25, I should actually be aiming to peak when I'm in my 40s. Like I want to be a phenomenal masters athlete and I want to do really well. If you find the sport late and you're like, I want to be an elite now, you have to understand that that timeline is going to be like aggressive.
Yep.
And you have to be willing to sacrifice all of it. If you can't, just take the time, set the timeline and be like,
20 years.
20 years. I'm in 20 years. And master what you're doing rather than worry about whether you can do it when you're 30 and 35 and whatever. And where CrossFit is now, if you're older than 17 and you're starting CrossFit,
crazy.
Like, you're like, it's a sport now. And so the young guns that master when they're young are always going to make it difficult for you. And so you need to have a specific mindset, but the timeline doesn't, there are certain steps that have to happen before you do really well.
Yep.
And so master those steps first.
Okay. And I want to ask you about your goals for 2025.
Mine.
Yours. So we'll start with your coaching goals or gym goals.
As a business, I just want to be in a safe place. I don't like to set goals that, like, I would rather set small goals and continually smash them. And I think that's like the weightlift in me. When you go for a PB, you don't go for 10 kilos more, you go for 1 kilo more. The world record isn't beaten by 10, 15 kilos, they're beaten by 0.5.
Yeah.
And so I don't like to send a year goal. I like to send like segments. And so my first one is to make sure that the business is secure. The transition into now going into VAT bracket and all that, that's all stuff we're learning the rules of the UK. And we've got to abide by those rules. And so I want that to be in a safe place just so that my family is less stressed, less worried, less like it's a business that can survive kind of thing. So that would be my first business goal. We've got a lot of athletes that want to do well, and that's great. And we've got a massive PB board and everyone's put those on. So my second goal would be to make sure that our program, and that's the part that I say that gyms go wrong. Like, I don't care what anybody else is doing. I don't care what's on Instagram or downloading a program from somebody else. Our gym members have written on the board what they want as goals. We take those goals, I assess them and be like, all right, I've got 70 people that want to do pull-ups. All right, I've got to design a program to make sure that those 70 get the pull-ups and these 20 get their squats and so the second half of the gym focus would be to make sure that all our members reach their goals.
Yep.
My personal goal is I always watched, I'll never forget, it's now 4 years down the line. There was a Chinese lady who broke the Masters 80 clean and jerk. She got 40 kilos. And when they interviewed her and said, like, how did you train for this? She was like, I just waited till everybody else died. Like, I was like, fuck, yeah. Like,
makes sense.
Yeah. Who'd you compare? Everyone else died. Like, it's easy. And so my goal from after Worlds last time is I always look at the category that I want to go in. I look at what they're lifting and what their records are. And I just want to be me the year before. So I don't, since 35, my goals have never been to increase weight. I have a 36-year-old PB. So if I can hit 130 clean and jerk this year and 115 kilo snatch this year, that's my 45-year-old PB. And if I can keep doing that and I can keep those lifts until I'm 50, in theory, based on what the records are now, I should be a competitive lifter to finish in the top 3. So my personal goal is just be the same as I was last year, but a year older, if that makes sense. So that kind of deters me from pushing to try and get more and more and more and just be like, well, just do what you did last year and you'll be injury free, you'll be safe, you'll be okay. And if you can do that when you're 50, people look at you and be like, fuck, you're a phenomenal 50-year-old. Well, actually, I did it when I was 45 and I've just kept
maintained.
it all. I've just maintained it. So yeah, my goal is to be the same 45-year-old as I was 44-year-old. So,
and what about your goals outside of the gym? Any personal goals outside of the gym?
I want more. No, I guess that's every father. Like, I want more time with my family. Like it's been a rough road. And you can talk about it. And I know everyone has a hard journey and all that kind of jazz, but it's been hard, leaving family and all that kind of jazz. I want to give back to Kelly for all that she's done, everything that she's done. And then every father wants to spend more time with their son. And I guess that's until you pack your entire life up. And we had a family back in SA, like all our guys in SA. We remember every single one of them. We had a huge dinner before we left. There was lots of crying. And like, we just thought, we're never going to have this again. Like, and we've got it now in our family, 11-11. But it was a lot to give up, and it was very difficult. And so I just want to spend time with my family and not have to fight to keep my head above water kind of thing. And so I think that's kind of like my personal goals would be.
Do you think you'll go back to SA ever?
To live?
No, just to visit.
Oh, yeah. We want to go in March. So,
okay.
Yeah. In March, it's Kelly's grand's 95th. It's my mom's 70th. And so if we don't get to go back now, then Josh is most probably not going to get to see them. Yeah. So we want to go back in March and spend some time. Yeah. Africa is always going to be a place that...
Don't miss the Open.
No. Again, you meet Kelly, she won't let me miss the Open. No, it's planned to be the weekend after. Don't book holidays in February, March. So we'll go back in March for 2 weeks to see family and cool. Spend some time there.
So this podcast episode is sponsored by Prep Kitchen. Prep Kitchen are providing high protein, super tasty meals. My favourite one at the moment is the firecracker chicken, 500 calories, 40 grams of protein. Make sure you check them out. I'll put a link for them in the description below. On with the episode. We're going to play a game of...
Wrong answers only.
Wrong answers only. You can only answer with wrong answers.
Okay.
And as fast as you can. What do you call someone who roasts coffee?
Coffee roaster.
You've got to answer with a wrong answer.
Oh, was that the right answer?
That was the right answer.
Oh, all right.
A coffee roaster. Come on, Mark.
I thought it was like a aficionado or something.
No, you've just got to answer with anything, but it's got to be not the answer.
Oh, okay.
You see what I'm saying?
Oh, okay. Got it.
Wrong answers only.
What do you call someone who roasts coffee?
Sausage.
Name a gymnastics movement in CrossFit.
The somersault flip.
Who is the heavyweight world champion boxer?
Kelly.
Name something you put on toast.
I don't put anything on toast. Grass.
And what was your favourite date with Kelly?
Wrong answer only. I get myself in trouble. My worst date with Kelly.
No, what was your favourite date?
My
with
favourite
Kelly?
date with
Wrong
Kelly.
answers only.
Oh, the one where we spent with her mom.
Oh god, she's going to be listening.
I don't know what to-
Okay, that was good. I enjoyed that. Time for some news. We're really upping the production on this series.
I see that.
Yeah,
I like it.
So some news. I'm launching a product called Optimal State, which is a powder focus product with nootropics, mushrooms for like concentration, stress, anxiety, mood. Kind of like a product designed to zone you in, but help you with. I kind of made it for a comp day. Okay. You know, just like to calm you. You know, the comp day nerves.
Yeah.
Dialed in for the workouts. So a lot of people have asked me for like focus products. So no idea how it's going to go, but I reckon it could be really good for like a high rocks race prior if you're traveling, just to like keep you calm. So we'll see how that goes. 1111 are now stocking the electrolyte sachets. Yes. So anyone listening who goes to another CrossFit gym or owns a CrossFit gym who may want electrolyte sachets, then message the WOD Powders Instagram. We're going to finish with a random fact of the day. The average person spends 2 years of their life on the phone.
2 years?
2 years of your life.
I would have thought on the phone as in like on the phone
or
like
no.
On the phone?
On a call.
I can get that.
Because you got to think like some people who work in sales will spend years and years on the phone if they're doing a sales job where they're constantly ringing.
Yeah, I thought it would be, it has to be high if you're like on your phone. Because like,
oh yeah, that's going to be way higher.
Flipping hell.
That'd be crazy.
We're wasting our lives.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
100%.
Yeah, we don't phone much anymore.
No. Prep Kitchen are the sponsors of the podcast. So they've sent you a few meals to try, which I'll send you home with. And WOD Powders. Fresh tub of WOD Fuel.
Thank you.
Blueberry flavour.
I need to chat to you about that as well. That's a win.
Well, you've got to,
I was like,
should have waited.
I need to get more. I was like,
so yeah, fresh tub of WOD Fuel. And then where can people find you, the gym, social media?
So everything's 1111.
Which Instagram are you using?
So
the JMK Compete.
So Kelly and I have that JMK Compete. That was our online thing for a lot of our guys in SA. We've just we haven't really spent a lot of time on it. It is now Kelly's baby, so it will be something that is growing in the next year as part of our next year growth thing. So Kelly will be spending more time on that. So either JMK Compete, that'll be growing, but 1111 is the predominant one that we use right now. Yep. And then 101 Hammer and House in Harrogate is the
location.
Gym itself.
Yeah. So anyone dropping in Harrogate ever?
Yeah. If they want to hate their life,
the worst session of your life.
I've got other gyms that are fun in the neighbourhood. You can go.
This
to
one is not
this
fun.
One's not.
Cool. We'll end on that note. Cheers, Mark.
Cheers. Thanks.
I hope you enjoyed that episode, and a huge thank you for listening. Make sure you're following the pod on Instagram. The podcast is sponsored by WOD Powders. That's at WOD Powders on Instagram. Please show some support to the pod by either sharing this episode with a mate or buying some supplements from wodpowders.co.uk. See you guys next week.